Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
We're back on location.
Back on location. It just feels better just being back
It does.
in here.
It does.
It does. It's Pat, Pete, and Logan.
Yeah, we do got to introduce our...
Here we are again.
We got to introduce ourselves.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. This is Reverent and Rebellious, and we are fired up and ready to go tonight. Yeah. We got we're continuing our Halloween series, and we've got two subjects to cover tonight.
Yeah, and I'm pumped. And before you get to find out, we need you to do a couple of things for us. We need you to like and share and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Look, guys, we were just talking about we're getting way more views than thumbs up, and that makes us a little sad on YouTube.
Hurts my feelings.
It does, mine too.
I mean, it's just one little button.
Yeah, you just click that.
Thumbs up.
But we got to give a shout out. Debbie Baskin said we are a big deal.
Yeah, we are a big deal.
And we appreciate that comment.
Makes me Debbie's feel like a big deal.
You're a big deal. That's right. You are.
Exactly right.
Does that make her number one fan?
As of now, yeah.
Yeah, she's number one fan.
I'm pretty sure she is.
Yeah.
So
we got to get her a T-shirt.
You need a T-shirt.
The next day, we need to get a bunch of comments on here and a bunch of thumbs up, and then we can sort of have a contest for
who the number one fan really is.
And we're going to call them rabid fans.
Rabid,
because our first subject, we're gonna talk about werewolves today.
That's right.
And werewolves is not. I mean, it's something that's always kind of in the background, but werewolves are hardly ever front and center.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, before we get into that, you know you have to do your dad joke.
Oh my gosh!
He tries to skip
out. He tries to get out every time, but I'm not going to let it happen.
Okay, let me think of a
good.
Of a good
You kind of caught him off guard.
I did.
Yeah.
I'm at a loss for a good dad joke. Let's see. Okay. I'll do this one with you. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Impatient cow.
Moo. Okay. Thank you. I feel satisfied now.
There you go. Dude, I just noticed, guys, if y'all wonder, people that are watching that maybe don't know us or around us, this camera throws you off. Pat, you look so tiny down there in the end.
Yeah.
Like
I like that, though. I like the perspective of that. I do.
It makes you look small. I look like extra large. And it just progressively gets smaller down as we go.
And then you see my big melon right in the middle. So I'm when Jesus said I'm the light of the world, he was not kidding.
I just get to lie to everybody. They're like, man, how big are those guys? I'm like, they're huge.
Yeah. Right.
They're huge.
Okay, so why do werewolves get overlooked? Why do we not talk about them more?
Because it doesn't say werewolf.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll buy that.
And also too, they're kind of the I don't know, the misfit. Of
the outlier, the renegade. Yeah,
oh, man, I agree. Love werewolves though.
Okay, so have you watched a lot of werewolf movies?
I have
tons.
I've got, man. I love the old. I've got the whole box set of Universal Monsters Classic.
Okay,
yeah.
The old ones.
Wolfman.
Okay. Wolfman. And I even enjoy the new Wolfman with Benicio del Toro, but I love the classic Wolfman. It was made in like the 40s.
Yeah.
And I love that movie. Like it's got the gypsy, out there that kind of.
Oh yeah.
Like that one, that's a good movie. And so I dig it on that. And actually I got a question for you guys.
Okay.
About werewolves.
Yeah.
How many ways can you kill a werewolf?
Oh man,
silver.
Was that your answer?
Yeah, I was going to say silver. Yeah.
All right. I was brushing up for this, and some people say you can cut the head off of a werewolf and kill it. Well, I believe it's a silver bullet is the only way to kill a werewolf.
Silver bullet.
Yep.
Okay.
And I guess if you could fashion some way, I don't know, but silver is how you kill them.
Didn't the gypsy lady say, or a stick with a silver handle?
I think something. Yeah. But because he had the wolf head that was silver on his cane. But like in Monster Squad, if y'all have seen that classic, you probably hadn't seen it.
I've never heard of it.
It's a classic, so I knew you hadn't seen it.
For sure.
But in that movie, they're arguing over how many ways can you kill a werewolf, and they're like, man, there's several ways. Well, there's a part spoiler alert, the movie's like 40 years old. So
if you haven't watched it now, it's your fault.
Yeah, it's your fault. A guy sticks some dynamite in the pants pocket or something on a werewolf and pushes him out a window. He blows to pieces, and then all the pieces come back together.
See,
and he's still going. But then one of the kids had made some silver bullets. He shoots him with a silver bullet. It drops him dead, and the guy thanks him. He's like thankful that he saved him. And so the only way to kill him, silver bullet.
Okay.
And why does it seem to you guys that werewolves always hate themselves?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that, but you're right.
They always want to be killed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it torments them to be a werewolf, right?
Yeah. Well, think about it, because they always know it's coming too. It's like, it depends on which film you watch. Like, it's the full moon.
Full moon.
Yeah.
The full moon brings them out. And so, man, that's the worst 30 days ever. You know, it's like, oh, man.
Yeah.
I got to go on vacation every month.
Yeah.
Well, I did a little bit of digging on the origin of the whole werewolf thing. And it turns out that it has its origins in mythology. Like Zeus is a big figure.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So the key figure is Lycaon. Lycaon.
This is where we get lichens.
Okay.
That's what werewolves are
Isn't
called.
Okay.
Lichens.
What is the full lycanthropes? Isn't it lycanthropy?
Something like that.
Isn't that the study of werewolves?
Oh, no,
Real
it's
thing.
lycanthropy.
Lycanthropy.
Yeah, or lycanthropy. I don't know.
So this is a real thing.
It's a real thing.
It's
Wow.
it's a psychiatric syndrome that a person actually believes that they can shapeshift.
Can you go to school and study it?
Yes, you absolutely
I
can.
might consider going to college for that one.
Okay. I'm at a loss.
And
I didn't know
here's-
this was a thing.
Here is something very interesting, because in the New Testament, in Paul's journeys, at one point he wants to go to Iconium. The full name, it's like 3 territories grouped together in this region, and it's called Lyconia,
Oh man,
spelled the same way.
is it full of werewolves?
I have no idea, but it fascinated me that it was actually in the Bible. But this little paper here says it's in Greek mythology. Lycon was a king of Arcadia, son of Pelasgus, whatever, who is believed to be one of the first mortals to walk on the earth. He is the first werewolf in existence, and thus the king of all werewolves.
Oh, so he's a bad dude.
Well, yeah, and he's also the only known species of werewolf with whitish gold fur. Yeah. So if you ever see in any of the movies that any of the werewolves even have a spot of whitish gold fur, it's a descendant.
Well, wasn't in the Wolfman the remake? Isn't Benicio's dad kind of a light-colored werewolf?
See, there you go.
Teen Wolf.
Michael J. Fox's dad
I was going to say Teen Wolf. His dad.
but I think he was just old.
He looked like a teddy bear.
He did.
So here's the interesting thing. They actually, so his origins, according to some of the elders, whoever they are, he was among the antediluvian people. Do you know what that is?
I don't know what that is.
Antediluvian. That is people who survived the Great Flood.
Okay. And now,
Yeah, so
is this the Greek flood narrative?
So are they Nephilim?
See, here you go.
Yeah. Okay, we're talking now.
I
Let's do
think
this.
there is some language here.
Yeah.
It says that he survived the Great Flood. Now, who survived the Great Flood? The spirits of the Nephilim, right? Okay,
right.
So here we go. We're on the right track.
Well, this is already gaining some
I
traction
know.
here.
I know.
I'm intrigued.
And so I'm going to skip a lot of this ridiculousness, but he gave birth to 50 sons.
A litter.
A litter. Yes.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay, so he had this feud with Zeus, and so they went back and forth, and Zeus actually killed him, but he came back to life.
Didn't use a silver bullet.
And that's it. And so Zeus killed his 50 sons.
Oh man.
But before he killed, most of his 50 sons, but before he killed them, Lycon bit them and put them under the curse of the werewolf.
Huh.
Yeah. And so the surviving sons all escaped out into the wilderness, and traverse the globe separately, each one making a clan of werewolves that have come to be known across the world.
Wow.
Dun, dun, dun.
You know, I always actually said a werewolf's what I would want to be.
Really?
Yeah, like versus a vampire or anything else. Like
Werewolves are all definitely the main list.
they are.
You know, they Hulk out.
They Hulk out like they can have a big beard. You don't ever see like a big bearded vampire hardly.
Yeah, vampires are really emo.
They are very emo. Yeah. Is Donald Trump a werewolf? I saw a picture of him on
I think that was just an advertisement.
Okay, I was like, is he supposed to be? He's kind of got
I
a.
hope so.
Is there an orange-haired vampire?
Yeah, he's a shapeshifter for sure.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So the end of this story is that Zeus then is going to go after the rest of his sons, but Athena, his wife, says, "No, don't kill them because they could be useful to us." Restoring proper balance to the natural order, and so he didn't kill them. And this is where the howling comes from, is the howl at the moon goddess.
Okay.
For helping to help them to flourish and save their lives and all that kind of stuff. So there you go.
Did it say like are they capable of they bite and continue to spread their?
Yes. That's you spread the curse by biting. That's the thing. Oh. So the full moon comes. They shapeshift into wolves, and then they can bite people.
Gotcha.
But here's the deal: is the reason that they are allergic to silver? It's kind of a Zeus thing, because Zeus kind of made insulted them or made fun of them because they couldn't eat like human beings, and so they couldn't grab a piece of silver to eat their food with.
Oh, well, okay.
So,
gotcha.
So there's part of the...
That's their kryptonite.
Yeah.
So I wonder why in vampire and werewolf mythology, why biting is the way that it spreads. Like rabies.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I guess that's about the only... there's a blood exchange and all that kind of stuff. Kind of like with the vampire thing that we
Does
talked
that
about.
work on a werewolf? Like, could a werewolf person like give his blood to somebody and make him a werewolf?
I think that's the idea.
Yeah.
That if you get bitten by a werewolf, then you're going to be, when the full moon comes, you're going to be howling. Yeah.
But I know, like a vampire would like cut themselves and make somebody drink their blood, and then they.
Yeah.
What if a werewolf bites a vampire?
See, I was just thinking about that.
I don't know.
Is that an upgrade or a downgrade?
Well, see, I will admit I played some nerdy games in my day, and there was one game where you could be a vampire or a werewolf. It was Skyrim. It's a great game, but if you could only be one or the other, you never could be.
You couldn't mix them.
It actually would rid you of the curse of the other.
Oh, wow. Well, there's all kinds of truth found in those games, right?
Yes. Well, I gotta know now.
Okay.
All right, Pat, werewolf or vampire? What do you want to be? Which would you rather be?
Oh, I'd have to go werewolf. I'd have to.
Why?
Because I get to keep my beard.
There you go.
That's a good point.
What about you?
You'd
be the Lord of the Vamp. You got the white hair going.
I could
You'd be
do that.
the bad to the bone werewolf.
I would be king of werewolves.
You would.
That's true.
Yeah.
I feel like you were leaning towards vampire though.
No, vampires. I don't know.
And it's only once a month gig, man.
I know.
Like you know.
Do you have any sort of? I wonder if the werewolf has any sort of strength or anything when he's not in werewolf mode.
See, I was wondering that because it's like if you're in human form, do you not have silverware? You use plastic forks.
No quarters
that
before
would get
1965.
Because vampires when they don't look like vampires, they still can't see the sun.
That is
and all
true.
that kind of stuff.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to watch some more werewolf movies closely and see.
And also too, like I'm a night person, but I do want to get some sunshine every once in a while. Vampires, you're
That's a
out
good
on
point.
that.
That's a good point.
No
Werewolves,
vacations.
it would work better for my farming. That's for sure.
Yeah, werewolves can go to the beach.
Yep.
That's a good point. I never thought about that, but yeah, you're right.
Garlic, pizza.
Yeah, I just feel like werewolves are a little more, organic.
Yeah.
Vampires are a little more I don't
They're
know.
kind of high maintenance.
I think they
They're
are.
inconvenient.
Yeah.
It's very
And
inconvenient.
I really like garlic.
Yeah, I do
And
too.
I think that werewolves can eat garlic. I'm pretty
Of
sure.
us
I
in
feel like
here,
werewolves can eat anything.
I feel like y'all would probably fit the vampire bill easiest because y'all literally sleep like
I know.
vampires
It's
already.
true. It is
Yeah.
true. Yeah, sleeping schedule would definitely fit
Yeah.
with vampires. But did you know, also, side note, there is another condition called hypertrichosis.
Okay.
And that is where you have an overabundance of hair all over your body. That's like a real
Wow.
thing.
I think my grandfather had that.
Do you know what they call it?
What?
Werewolf syndrome.
Wow, that's an awesome name.
Is this where
know.
like you get like the wolf man for like sideshows and
Yeah,
stuff?
exactly. That's what that is.
Okay.
Marcy
Hypertrichosis.
would say that I might
Yeah, I
suffer
know.
from that.
I know. But no, they grow hair down on their forehead.
I've
and,
seen
you know,
pictures
yeah.
of that. Wow.
Yeah, werewolf syndrome.
Do you
Real
think,
life
okay,
Eddie Munster.
so we've talked about how we've wondered and speculated if the Nephilim still, if there's any traces of them left. Do you think there's a possibility maybe that's a trace of that?
You know, this is one thing we're finding out in this whole little series is that that the Bible, the Scripture, you know, it's not only the Word of God, but it also reflects the cultures from which it comes, and so there's a lot more of this kind of language once we kind of lift the lid and dig a little bit deeper. Monsters and and many of them have references back to the Nephilim and the Anakim and the Watchers and the Elohim and all this stuff. I mean, this was like a real thing.
Yeah.
And people knew about it and they wrote about it and they thought about it. And so I was asking myself, okay, so what in the world would the Bible have to say about werewolves? And so I just kind of, dug a little bit deep, and it was just like right under my nose.
Yeah.
It's in Daniel chapter 4. Now, is this really a werewolf? I don't know, but it certainly is shape-shifting right here.
It is. And I had never thought about it. And as we've always kind of discovered on here, it seems like I had never thought about it from the perspective. One thing I feel like what we're doing here does, for me at least, is it says like, man, some of this supernatural stuff that you originally would just be like, pfft, it's like there's more possibility than we realize.
Absolutely.
It gives you a greater appreciation to scrutinize every word in Scripture.
Yeah.
Well,
Because you can blast past so many things without thinking about
I
it.
think it's like, well, that's a metaphor or something,
but you at some point you have to ask yourself the question, where did these ideas come from?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they're not just imagination.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, a lot of the imaginative stuff in Hollywood, they've taken it and elaborated on it, and they've modernized it and things like that. But where did those ideas come from?
Yeah, and this is the closest to the original as we can get.
I know. That's
Yep.
the thing. And then when you compare it with other writings in the culture, the ancient Mesopotamian literature, which they wrote a lot, and then you think about the Second Temple, the intertestamental, extra biblical writings. They just write about this stuff all the time. It was like a playground for supernatural weird beings.
Yeah. Well, who was it? The Amalekites or Amalek?
Amalekites.
Amalekites.
Yeah, I was going to get to them because we talked about that several Sundays ago with Joshua and Jericho.
Destroy them all and the livestock.
Yeah, exactly. Because
They were shapeshifters.
that's whether they were literally or not, they believed they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They absolutely believed they could change themselves into animals, and so they said destroy the livestock.
Yeah.
In fact, God told them to destroy.
Well, that
destroy
doesn't
the
say.
livestock.
See, it gives it a little more credence that God is like
I
destroy
know
the livestock.
he's in on all this stuff.
Yeah.
And you remember that when the promised land was officially taken, Joshua declared it so not by saying we've finally taken all the territory. He said there's finally no giants in the land.
Yeah.
That's how they knew it was over. Yeah, that there were no more giants.
Yeah.
So there you go. But there's the Amalekites. Also, don't sleep on all the times it talks about jackals.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not suggesting that every reference to jackals is, but there's an uncanny number of references to jackals and ostriches. Now, there is some symbolism there because jackals are, dangerous and predatory and, aggressive. Ostriches are passive and they're in denial all the time.
Stick their head in the ground.
Exactly. So sometimes it's a symbolism of the evil of being too aggressive or the evil of trying to ignore that there's an issue.
Yeah.
So we see a little bit of that, but when it says that Babylon will be wiped out and it will be just a place for jackals.
Yep.
There's something to that. But anyway, the most obvious reference is in Daniel chapter 4. King Nebuchadnezzar has a vision of a tree. And the tree is cut down, and it's the stump is saved for later, and all these different kinds of things. He can't interpret it, so he brings in Daniel, and Daniel tells him the bad news that the dream is about him, and he's going to be cut down. But he says, unless you get rid of your pride, unless you give credit to God who has given you this place.
Yeah,
and so 12 months later, it says in Daniel 4, it says, he was walking on the roof of the royal palace of Babylon, and the king reflected and said, is this not Babylon the Great, which I myself have built as a royal residence by the might of my power and for the glory of my majesty?
Very humble.
And then it says, while the word was in the king's mouth. Like, that was the worst thing you could have done right there.
Yeah. Like Nebuchadnezzar.
Exactly. And he says, while the word was in the king's mouth, a voice came from heaven saying, King Nebuchadnezzar, to you it is declared, sovereignty has been removed from you. Boom. And then it gives the curse there. And then it says that immediately the word concerning Nebuchadnezzar was fulfilled. Now listen to this. He was driven away from mankind, began eating grass like cattle, and his body was drenched with the dew of heaven until his hair had grown like eagle's feathers and his nails like bird's claws. How about that?
He's either a werewolf or a griffin, whatever them things are.
Yeah. Yeah. And one scholar said, no, that's not lycanthropy. That is boanthropy. Because apparently that's another condition where you believe you can change yourself into a cow. Yeah.
But why would he have
that's
the
a
claws?
moot point. I know. It's ridiculous.
Not hooves.
That guy, that scholar has never been around a cow.
I agree. It's just because he ate grass.
Yeah.
I mean, like he's going like a vegetarian werewolf. That's never going to happen.
That would be a much less threatening werewolf.
Well,
I agree.
Also, too, when Scripture refers to beasts of the field, a lot of times that is a reference to unclean spirits, to demons.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And there was I looked at I have read the Message translation on here a few times. It let me down on here. Because, it was the one that was like, it really went into the monster on like the night monster
and
one.
it didn't do that on this one?
No, I was hoping I'd pull it up and it'd be like, and the fangs of the werewolf were drenched in blood.
That would be awesome.
It wasn't. It was literally almost exactly like this. I mean, right here, it said it happened at once. Nebuchadnezzar was driven out of a human company, ate grass like an ox. It was soaked in heaven's dew. His hair grew like the feathers of an eagle, and his nails like the claws of a hawk.
Well, that's boring.
I know.
Come on, you two.
Yeah, man.
You can do better than that.
That's what I'm saying.
So anyway, that's kind of that's werewolf-ish.
That was the only thing I could find on it.
Yeah, that and the Amalekites, and that was just about it. And then, of course, there is a talking donkey in there, but I don't know if that has anything to do with anything.
Well, there's a lot of those today.
Absolutely. I think I've spoken to a couple today.
Yeah.
And it's like I told my wife one time, I said, well, God spoke through a talking donkey. And she said, well, he spoke through one this morning. So there you go.
So was Nebuchadnezzar, after all this is good here, he praised the Lord.
Yep.
So I guess if he was a werewolf, was that removed from him at that point?
It was.
According to the concordance, he has the mind of a beast. It's the same word beast as the four beasts that stand judgment.
Yeah.
So it's literally that same word.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
beast sounds even better to me.
I know. I agree. But But then he said, he said, at the end of that period, I, Nebuchadnezzar, raised my eyes toward heaven, and my reason returned to me. And I blessed the Most High and praised and honored him who lives forever. And he goes into this little song. And then he said, at that time, my reason returned to me, and my majesty and splendor were restored to me for the glory of my kingdom, and so on and so forth. I'm not even sure that he really repented, but it was pretty close.
Yeah.
Because he ends up with, it says, now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise, exalt, and honor the King of heaven, for all his works are true, and his ways are just, and he is able to humble those who walk in pride. So there you go. There you go. There's your biblical werewolf.
Yeah. That's all. Like I said, that was all I could ever find on it.
Yep. That's about it.
I was hoping to find some cool passage about a werewolf in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess, I don't know. We'll have to just imagine that among the giants and the Nephilim were the Lyconians.
Well, and that does, like I said, that actually makes me think on it more. It's like, well, the traces of them remaining. It's like, man, it might not be what we would envision as like a Hollywood style werewolf.
Right.
Also, too, keep in mind, too, in this time period, they didn't have Hollywood as an imagination.
No.
Yeah.
No,
Right? So if they saw this creature, they're going to be like, man, it looks kind of like a wolf. Nails grew out. They don't have this big
that's right.
encyclopedia of information that we have. We can be like, man, it looks like that one dude on TikTok.
Yeah.
We can do that. They couldn't back then. So the only thing they could relate it to was any animal.
Yeah, that is true. And I actually just thought of something. I actually kind of contradicted myself earlier.
What about what?
So, I've said I'm a big Dracula fan.
Yeah.
Dracula could turn into a werewolf.
What?
That's true.
In Dracula, he knows a lady, and in werewolf form, he's got like a spell on Mina. She comes walking out and she sees a werewolf with her friend, like out in the garden at night. There's a werewolf, and he's got him a woman out there, and it's Dracula, because he turns and looks at her, and he's got like red eyes, but he's a werewolf. So I guess vampires could be, which Dracula could probably he can pretty much do whatever he wants to do.
Well, yeah, he's Dracula.
Also,
Yeah.
I wonder why in most films, vampires and werewolves are like mortal enemies.
I don't know, like Twilight.
Like Underworld.
Yes. So what would y'all say is because we don't have a lot more biblical reference, what would be the most close werewolf film in y'all's mind? Like if you had to have like what you felt was an accurate depiction of a werewolf.
I don't think I can be of much help.
I'm trying to think of the name of this film. I just watched it.
The Howling.
No, it was a film where, and it's funny because they're trying to summon the Antichrist. The dude's doing an interview with a vampire, a woman possessed with a demon, and a skinwalker, which is essentially a werewolf. And he plots them all to where he kills them, and he has to have a believer there, one guy that believes in Jesus. And they end up killing him
I have not seen
summon
this.
the Antichrist. I just watched it today.
Is this a new movie?
No, I think it's, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
I was just dumb scrolling, But anyways, this guy, he knew he was a werewolf. He knew that at a certain time period he would shapeshift, and there's nothing he can do about it. Anyways, long story short, is all of these creatures knew what they were, but they were not in control.
Yeah.
They knew they were inhabited by another thing.
I got you.
So I would think that would be the most realistic for me.
Yeah. I agree, and that seems to be the case with werewolves. Like
The Monster Project, that's what it's called.
Okay, I've
The
never heard of
Monster
that.
Project.
Well, that's like I immediately think of American Werewolf in London. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
and they're all like that. It's a dude that he gets bit, becomes a werewolf, and he doesn't want to be a werewolf. Like I'm trying to think of a film where a guy is happy to be a werewolf.
Teen Wolf.
Yeah, I mean, but it ends up biting him in the butt by the end.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
I don't know. Michael J. Fox walked away pretty happy at the end.
He does, but he has to quit being the wolf, kind of. Everybody don't like him no more.
But I mean, he van surfed. So I mean, what else is there?
Now you've seen that one.
I've seen. I don't know that I've actually watched the whole thing, but I'm more familiar with that one than I am the others.
Is that the? Have you seen any werewolf movie?
No, I have
Man.
not. I see, and this is my question to you. Now, like you said, I actually want to go out and encounter a ghost.
Yeah.
Would you want to encounter a werewolf?
I don't know about a werewolf now. I mean, a werewolf. Well, I mean, I'll be honest. Yeah, I'd like to see one. If they're out there, I'd like to see one.
But silver bullets?
But I want to be at a good distance away from them. But yeah, I would, if I could drive out of here tonight and I could drive down Double Bridges Road and look across our cornfield down there and I saw a werewolf, I would be. I don't know that I'd enjoy. I don't want to see it that close to my house. Actually, let me go over off Holly Grove Road over there. Not
pretty sure you could find one.
Yeah,
out here.
But here's the thing, though. It's like these things have come out of mythology somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Right. And there's hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years, people have been writing about them. So if they are in some way, shape, or form real, that means that people have encountered them,
Yeah.
but they've never defeated them.
Yeah.
Because we have yet to have a werewolf corpse.
All I'm saying is, when I drive down Double Bridges Road, next time I'm carrying a fork, I'm going to have a fork.
Silver fork.
Yes, and I'm going to say, okay.
There it is.
Because, that old man walking with a flashlight could have actually been a werewolf.
Yeah.
And if he was, I'm going to have my fork.
Yeah. In my luck, I would carry a fork, and then it'd turn out to be fake silver.
Stainless steel.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He'd just be laughing at you.
He would.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, that's but it is interesting to really think about. Like, I know some people. I mean, we're having fun talking about this, but like, it is interesting. I mean, it's easy for us to look at a film and be like, all right, werewolves come from Hollywood.
Right.
But then you look back and it's like, well, actually, werewolves is really old.
Well,
and
you got to reverse engineer it. Like, film got it from somewhere.
Yeah.
And then literature got it from somewhere.
And the stuff the articles that I was reading said that the ancient Greek and Roman authors regularly mention werewolves in their writings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
These are just, whether they be stories or plays, things like that. So it was there.
Yeah. Somehow that had come about.
Yeah.
And think about it too. Greek mythology, like that's 500 BC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's old, man.
That's a ways back.
Yeah.
So that takes us to our next subject, because now we got to talk about zombies.
Which
Nice.
is something I don't have any desire to be.
You don't have you don't want to encounter a zombie?
Well, I mean, yeah, I'd like to see a zombie.
It depends on what kind of zombie it is. Are we talking about like Walking Dead zombies?
Or
Because
World War Z.
World War Z is terrifying because they
Yeah.
sprint at you, right?
Really?
Yeah, they like
Nobody told me they did that.
Yeah, they'll sprint. They'll climb up over each other.
They
make human
obliterate
ladders.
that group of SEALs. It's like
Yeah.
a Navy SEAL team.
Oh, no.
They come down and land, and they're like decked out in their gear, and they
Yeah.
got the bad guns, and all of a sudden it's just this mass of
See,
them.
I'm all about the this kind of
Yeah.
zombie.
Yeah, like Night of the Living Dead zombie. I'm okay with
Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
Like that I can take my time with.
I
Yeah.
thought they
You
were
know.
the only kind.
No, no.
man.
They thought it was not a big enough challenge.
28 days later is the same.
Yeah.
Those zombies are fast.
Yeah.
See, that's not right.
I Am
That's
Legend.
Just not right.
Yep, I am legend. Yeah.
Okay, so how do we define zombie? What exactly are they?
Mindless, flesh-eating dead.
They eat flesh. Mm-hmm. Okay.
They like your brains, man.
So really?
Yep.
Yeah, man. That's the famous line. They want your brains. So-
Yeah,
Golly.
flesh-eating zombies they're basically dead. The show Walking Dead actually breaks them down. It's where their entire brain shuts down except the cerebellum that is responsible for motor functions.
Okay.
And basic animal instinct like eat and move. That's it.
So how do they know which part of you is your brain to eat it?
I assume by scent.
I've always seen them just like tear people's guts out.
Well, that is true. They do just devour them. But, a lot of times you see them say brains.
Yeah.
But now, all right, again, I got to ask the question. Now, first, I'll start with you. Have
Okay.
you seen a zombie film? Can you name?
No, I have not. They freak me out. It's just it's kind of like I kind of them stink bugs that come around this time of year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that's zombie. It's like you just look and there they are.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like open the door and they fall on your head.
Yep.
And you can't get rid of them.
So what is your most accurate depict, like film-wise, if you had to say this is probably what I think a zombie's like?
I would say The Walking Dead, actually.
Yeah.
that show, because it does really well. It's season 1. They're like fresh corpses, and then like where we're at now in the timeline, you know, they're like basically
walking skeletons or something.
Yeah, that's like they're like grown into trees, just like they're just there.
Yeah,
you know, they're not that big of a threat.
Okay, so do you know where the modern concept of zombies came from?
Voodoo.
Mm-hmm.
Voodoo.
From where?
Jamaica.
Haiti.
I knew it was somewhere down
was
there.
it like a curse they could put on somebody?
Well,
or a hex?
They have this. It sprung out of the voodoo religion, and their voodoo is different than like African voodoo and like Cajun voodoo and stuff like that. There's a little bit different flavor to it, a little bit more lethal. But their version is a dead body that's been reanimated without a soul and without the senses.
Yep.
And so they were supposed to be able to resurrect a body and give it basic life skills. I mean, basic life abilities.
The Monster of Frankenstein kind of thing.
Kind of, sort of. But here's the interesting thing, because the idea was birthed out of slavery.
Really?
They were among the first countries or cultures to go get Africans to do their work in the sugar fields or plantations.
Okay.
So
that was right there at the Triangle Trade. That's right.
Exactly. And so apparently they would work them so hard that they would die, and they would just go get some more. I mean, they were like machines.
They tried to recycle.
Well, what it was what they call escapist fantasy.
Huh.
So the slaves would fantasize about dying, and if they died, they would be transported supernaturally back to Guinea or Africa.
Wow.
And that was like what they dreamed of. They fantasized about it because they were being worked so hard. But suicide, as you can imagine, was rampant. Mm-hmm. But the part of this religious kind of mythology thing is if you committed suicide, you didn't go back to Africa. You didn't go back to Guinea. You would have to skulk around the plantations in this undead state.
Wow.
So you would be stuck there forever.
Yeah. And that was the zombie thing. But it gets even better, because then they started experimenting with these drugs.
Okay.
One was called, and it's still around today, Flakka. Flakka.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still in use today.
Is that what Waka uses?
Maybe.
Waka Flocka?
Waka Flocka. Yes,
Isn't that the one that like basically shuts down your brain functions?
Yeah. It makes you, it's the zombie drug. Huh. And
that sounds so appealing.
Yeah, until it actually happens to you. And then there's another newer one being used in Brazil called Cloud 9.
Cloud 9?
Yeah, I just learned about that.
I'm
yesterday.
on Cloud 9.
Yeah.
I've heard the phrase.
But actually, and this is kind of something that sort of morphed out of this original escapist fantasy kind of thing, is now people would use these zombie drugs to get people to work for them, to use people.
Wow.
Yeah. They could
still function?
Yeah.
And work?
They could keep them in this sort of semi-zombie state, and they would actually do the work. And now it's being used for trafficking purposes and things like that, because they can paralyze somebody. And of course, if you overdose them, they'll die. It's extremely toxic.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is it, like some fentanyl stuff or something?
I didn't get into the actual chemical makeup of the drugs, but it actually, the Flakka came from a natural source, a natural plant source, and they discovered it, and so they would use it, and so you actually had zombies walking around.
All I gotta say is, all of you out there that are creating drugs, make names that I can understand.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm tired of having to Google all this.
I know.
I always think about the poor Indian that's like in the group, and they see some new plant, and they're like, "What's one of us got to eat that leaf?"
That looks edible.
Yeah. Where's the Mikey of the group?
Yeah, somebody's going to eat that.
Yeah, it's so. I think about that when I think about mushrooms. Because I've got a couple of friends back in the Northwest that forage for mushrooms,
like morels.
Yeah, and there's one in particular called a shaggy mane, and shaggy manes. I've actually. One of my friends gave me some, and They are absolutely delicious.
Really?
I mean, you know, mushrooms typically don't have a lot of flavor.
Yeah.
They just absorb whatever flavor.
I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
No, I'm not even going there. I've never tried those kind of mushrooms.
Well,
Peter was like, "Well, I'm that
I
guy."
can tell you where to find them. Well, I see, they grow in cow patties.
Really?
Psilocybin mushrooms.
Wow.
I have seen them. We have had to run people. My dad has caught people with grocery bags picking shrooms. We just,
Wow.
shroom is they were
that's the
picking
term.
shrooms out here.
Yeah.
I've never wanted to experience a high bad enough to dig through cow crap.
That's what I saw a pile of cow crap, and there was like these little mushrooms growing up out of it, and I was like,
Wow.
that's what they are.
Jeffrey Dahmer, by the way, tried to create zombies.
Really?
He would his victims. He would drill holes in their head and pour like acid in their
Oh, my
brain,
Lord.
and
Wow.
they would stumble out into the street. Yeah,
That ain't right.
Wow.
like the cops actually stopped one, and he come out and said, "No, this is my lover. He's just drunk," and brought him back in. And
That is.
Jeez.
so great police work on their end.
Yeah.
So what happened? Does this shaggy mane? Let me guess. It's probably got another one that looks just like it, but it's ungodly toxic.
No, actually, yeah, yes and no, not exactly like it, but they're similar. And this one guy who's really into this foraging thing, he forages for more than mushrooms. I mean, there's all kinds of. He's done the research.
Yeah.
There's certain ferns and buds and berries and all this stuff that he gets, but he has this place that he always finds his shaggy manes that he won't tell anybody where it is. It's like super secret. And he goes once a year because they're always there once a year, and he gets them, and he usually gets a pretty big bag of them, and then he cooks them down with garlic and butter and puts them in little tubs and freezes them. And
Okay.
and so then you warm it back up, and then you spread it on toast, and it's quite delicious.
Man,
It really is.
I like mushrooms. Just
I do
about
too.
anything.
I do too.
I love mushrooms.
So anyway, how did we get off on that?
I don't know. I thought you were going to say he
yeah.
forages and messes up and grabbed the wrong one.
No, we got into this conversation, and I said, "Well, how do you know?" And he said, "Oh no, there's a particular, but you got to be careful." And then I got me to thinking, okay, so we know that there are many poisonous mushrooms, and there's only one way that we would know that.
Yeah, you got to eat them. Somebody had to
Exactly.
take one for the team.
Yeah.
Y'all ever watch Naked and Afraid?
No.
Yeah.
Well, there's one on there. Dude was so hungry, and there was mushrooms growing, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, man, come on now. Of all the things
Yeah.
that you get so hungry to eat, you're just going to eat a mushroom. And he just eats the crap out of the mushroom. And the chick that's with him is like, I don't think that's a good idea. And he's like, I'm so hungry. And he just eats it. If I remember right, he got like violently ill, and they had to
Golly.
take him to the hospital. But I don't know. The zombie thing, this used to be, I used to argue, or not argue, but I would wonder two things that are going to happen. I'm like, we're either going to eventually face a zombie apocalypse or robots like the Terminator.
I'll take zombies over the robots.
Oh, I definitely would, but I think we're headed closer to the Terminator because
Yeah.
all this
I agree.
AI stuff.
I agree.
But I did find, I'll share this verse that I did find on the zombies. It was the only one I found. And this was what they said. Some people were saying it is basically predicting the zombie apocalypse happening.
I've heard that. Yes.
It is Zechariah 14:12 through 13.
Yep.
And if I remember right, the message was pretty boring on this one too. That was unfortunate. But now this will be the plague with which the Lord will strike all the peoples who have gone to war against Jerusalem. Their flesh will rot while they stand on their feet, and their eyes will rot in their sockets, and their tongue will rot in their mouth. It will come about in that day that a great panic from the Lord will fall on them, and they will seize one another's hand, and the hand of one will be lifted against the hand of another. So, and it goes on, talks more about the plague of them, but that's what they said. That some people interpret that to mean that basically the zombie apocalypse is going to happen.
What
Yeah.
verse is that?
It's Zechariah 14:12.
I did it backwards. Okay. I went to 12:14.
So now when they reference Jerusalem too, could you say basically anybody against Israel? Could they interpret it that way?
In Zechariah, that would be. Let's see. I got to think back because this is
after David.
This is Zechariah and Haggai were prophesying during the return
From Babylon.
So it would have been Persia, and then comes Greece and Rome.
They'd be leaving the Chaldeans.
Right. So let me think about this.
Because I was wondering now, I'm like, could that be? Could you say obviously it says Jerusalem, but
Yeah, this is I will gather all the nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city will be captured, the houses plundered, the women ravished, and half of the city exiled, but the rest of the people will not be cut off from the city. And then the Lord will go forth and fight against those nations as when he fights on a day of battle. So this is the coming empires, but it also is apocalyptic in nature.
Yeah.
So it's talking about the nations being, the nations that are ruled by the Elohim, the sons of God, all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
And so, yes, it is proclaiming in this last part of this chapter God's victory over the enemies of Israel.
So everybody chanting "Free Palestine" right now is going to turn into a zombie. That's what I'm getting at.
Oh my God!
I've had a lot of questions about that recently too, and people stop apocalyptic looking.
I know.
Stop it.
Don't do it.
You just stop.
Do it.
Saying that this is like a mark of the end of times.
I'm so tired of it. You're just making yourself look dumb. Stop it. Stop it now.
I feel like there's always some sort of mark of the end of times. I mean,
everything's a mark of the beast.
It's kind of like the thing of this, man. When you're born, from the minute you're born, you're dying.
That's it.
Well, and here's the thing too. I've heard so many people. They're like, "Oh, it feels like the end times. We're in the end times." It's like, dude, when Jesus rose from the dead and ascended into heaven,
the clock started.
We've been in the end times since then.
Right.
Yeah.
That's when the clock started.
Yeah. We've been in the end times for a long time.
Yeah.
I feel like when we hear like the like some flaming guitar riffs and you look up and there's a dude in a blood-soaked robe with a sword coming out of his mouth, I'll be like, all right,
we're in the end of time. There it is. Now is that time.
And spoiler alert, you're not necessarily the good guy.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm just saying, there's lots of, we read the prophetic words that we want to.
That's
right.
Yeah. That's
and,
right.
They, what about the prophecies of Amos? What did we read in Amos about the fat cows demanding another drink?
Yeah.
Okay.
For some reason, we all picture Jesus like toting an American flag.
I know.
Dude, I picture him like in Mad Max Fury Road when they are storming and that one big truck has the guy that's like chained to it and he's jamming the guitar and flames are spraying out.
Yeah.
And it's just, I want a painting of him in a blood-soaked robe with a double-edged sword coming out of his mouth. That's what I want.
And that's the thing, the blood-soaked robe is his own blood. That's tough right there.
Yeah. So we just went off a crazy thing off of the zombie thing, but so is there any other biblical reference?
There's quite a bit actually.
Yeah, this one there was a lot.
Isaiah 26. Prophesies, your dead will live, their corpses will rise. You who lie in the dust, awake and shout for joy, for your dew is as the dew of the dawn, and the earth will give birth to the departed spirits.
That's pretty zombie-ish. What is that? Isaiah what?
Isaiah 26. And then it says, come, my people, enter into your rooms and close your doors behind you. Hide for a little while until indignation runs its course.
Nice.
Yeah, the earth will give birth to the departed spirits. How about that?
And I see, I guess, after, is that like after God then comes? Because then it says here, the dead will not live, the departed spirits will not rise. Therefore, you have punished and destroyed them, and you have wiped out all remembrance of them.
Which verse is that?
That is 14, Isaiah 26:14.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's the message say about that? Because
that's what I'm looking. What verse does it start at?
The
19
the
to
actual
20.
word is ghost of the dead.
Yes.
Shades, spirits.
Yes.
All right, let me see here. Which verse is, I see I'm in 26.
19.
19. All right. Yeah, I got to see. If the message lets me down here, I'm going to have a serious problem here. All right, here we go. Okay. It says, well, it's kind of all right. But friends, your dead will live. Your corpses will get to their feet. All you dead and buried, wake up, sing. Your dew is morning dew, catching the first rays of sun. The earth bursting with life, giving birth to the dead.
It's not bad.
It's not bad, but it just ain't got that
Horror element.
Yeah, I'm missing that punch that it had in that other.
Oh, Lilith.
Yep. Then the night monster, like that one was good.
Yeah, that was pretty creepy.
It was.
Okay, so I got a question about these zombies because I see in the commercials how if you bump them just the wrong way, their arm falls off. Is that the way that works?
Well,
Depends on how long they've been dead.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
How long they've rotted.
could you just wait out the zombie apocalypse?
I think you could because at least in the show, like a lot of times, my man Daryl, he'll tear an arm off a zombie and kill it with its own arm.
Nice.
Wow.
That's like efficient.
Yeah.
It's very efficient.
So, and I guess that was my question: is if you can just tear their arms off, why don't you just do that, and then they can't?
Well, then they just try to bite you.
Oh,
One chick in the show, she knocks their teeth out and cuts their arms off and uses them as slaves.
But how do they do anything?
They just follow her. She puts bags and like luggage on them.
Oh, they're
and then
like
they just
carrier
follow
stuff?
her. Yeah.
okay. How about this one? Jeremiah 19. He says, "I shall also make this city a desolation and an object of hissing. Everyone who passes by it will be astonished and hiss because of all of its disasters. And I shall make them eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters, and they will eat one another's flesh in the siege and in the distress with which their enemies and those who seek their life will distress them."
All right. The message kind of came forward on this one here. All right, I'll start. This one's a little tricky because it doesn't give you it says 6 through 9. All right.
Okay.
So he says, "I'll stack their dead bodies to be eaten by carrion crows and wild dogs. I'll turn this city into such a museum of atrocities that anyone coming near will be shocked speechless by the savage brutality. The people will turn into cannibals, dehumanized by the pressure of the enemy siege. They'll eat their own children. Yes, they'll eat one another, family and friends alike." Now, that one was pretty good.
Yeah, man.
Graphic.
You could make a movie out of that one.
The savage brutality part, I'm like, man, that's very metal.
Man.
Yeah. In
Master of Puppets going in the background.
Yes.
In Ezekiel 38 and 39, there's a prophecy about Gog and Magog. And it's Gog who comes back as Magog, and it's all sorts of weird cryptic
I
language.
read that one, but I couldn't. There wasn't anything that just stood out to me. Which part is it that?
Well, in 39, 17, it says, "As for you, son of man, thus says the Lord God, speak to every kind of bird and every beast of the field. Assemble and come gather from every side to my sacrifice, which I'm going to sacrifice for you as a great sacrifice on the mountains of Israel, that you may eat flesh and drink blood.
Yeah.
You shall eat the flesh of mighty men. You shall drink the blood of the princes of the earth, as though they were rams, lambs, goats, and bulls." Rams, lambs, goats, and bulls. Yeah, I like that.
It's like the.
But here's here's a key word here, though. I didn't notice this before. All of them fatlings of Bashan. Bashan is one of the headquarters of the Elohim, the Watchers, the Divine Council.
Yeah.
This is one of the places where they would meet with the humans and teach them all of this, new technology and ways to destroy each other and corrupt mankind.
District east of Jordan.
Yeah, so you will eat fat until you are glutted and drink blood until you are drunk from my sacrifice, which I have sacrificed for you. And he goes on.
Your rams, lambs things made me think of
Rams,
that song.
goats, and bulls.
Beans, greens, potatoes,
I was
tomatoes.
thinking about that. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, let's get that woman to sing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rams, lambs, goats, and bulls.
Yeah. Makes me think of Black Betty, right?
Yeah. Bambaland.
Yeah, exactly. Whoa. All right.
People have no idea how far we can reach to tie something in. You know, they underestimate us.
We can corrupt all of this stuff.
Right.
Let me see. How do I? Oh, here it is. I happened upon it. I don't know. I don't remember all my books of the Bible. Apparently,
It's in 5th of John.
yeah, exactly. So Micah 3. Micah 3 says, "Hear now, heads of Jacob and rulers of the house of Israel. Is it not for you to know justice? You who hate good and love evil, who tear off their skin from them and their flesh from their bones, who eat the flesh of my people, strip off their skin from them, break their bones and chop them up as for the pot and as meat in a kettle."
That's pretty vivid.
Yeah.
Boy, this is a prophecy right here. I haven't read this in a long time.
They will cry out to the Lord, but he will not answer them. Instead, he will hide his face from them at the time because they have practiced evil deeds.
Yes. And says, "Thus says the Lord concerning the prophets who lead my people astray. When they have something to bite with their teeth, they cry peace, but against him who puts nothing in their mouths." Yeah, I could go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, he ends that chapter by saying, "On account of you, Zion will be plowed as a field. Jerusalem will become a heap of ruins, and the mountain of the temple will become high places of a forest." That's a good word, Micah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's encouraging.
Yeah. Good sermon, preacher.
So
You should do one on that, I feel like.
I probably will.
So we talked about the flesh eating part of it. I'm interested about the mind part of it.
Okay.
So before salvation, we talked about this a little bit off air. Before salvation, we're considered dead
Oh, yeah. There's the other reference. Yes.
in our sin.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm curious about in Romans 1, it's talking about unbelief and its consequences.
Yeah.
And it starts off as, "For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men who surpass truth in unrighteousness." And it goes on.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, in verse 26, "For this reason, God gave them over to degrading passions, for their women exchanged for natural function, which is unnatural. And in the same way, also men abandoned natural function of women and burned in their own desire toward one another. Men with committing indecent acts, retrieving," goes through all this sexual sin.
Right.
But then it gets to,
The depraved mind.
yes, the depraved mind. "And just as they did not see fit to acknowledge God any longer, God gave them over a depraved mind to do those things which are not proper, being filled with unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice, and they are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, arrogant, boastful, inventors of evil." Wow. Okay, that's a big one. "And disobedient to parents, without understanding, untrustworthy, unloving, merciful," and he just lays down a whole spiel of stuff that screams of what it's like to be today.
A depraved mind.
Yeah.
What do you think that word depraved means?
Dead.
Kind of does.
I think
Spiritually
so.
dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's my other New Testament zombie verse. Ephesians 2. "And you were dead. And you were dead in your trespasses and sins." That word actually means a corpse.
Yeah.
And you were a corpse, a lifeless corpse, "in which you formerly walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air." We know who that is. "Of the spirit that is now working in the sons of disobedience." And then he goes on, he says, "Among them we too all formerly lived in the lusts of our flesh, indulging the desires of the flesh and the mind, and were by nature children of wrath, even as the rest." And then he says, but God, being rich in mercy, because of his great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in our transgressions, made us alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved, and raised us up with him, seated us with him in the heavenly places in Christ Jesus. And so he goes on there. So what that means is, if you have not been made alive together with Christ,
You're dead.
you're a zombie. You have physical life,
Yeah.
but you have no spiritual life.
Yeah.
So
what is our role in that?
To go around and bite people.
Yeah.
Give them to infect
and
them with the
here's
word.
the thing is, I think the church needs to hear this too, is when we come across people with a depraved mind, it's not our job to shun them, to destroy them.
Oh,
it's our
no,
job to
no.
give them the
okay,
truth.
so
Yeah.
I actually preached a whole sermon on this passage right here because it's one of my favorites. And the name of the sermon was "I See Dead People."
Oh, I think you did that here. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
I can remember
pretty
that.
early on.
I mean, it's a movie reference, so
Yeah.
it's definitely
Sixth
going to
Sense,
stick
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah, I
Have
See
you
Dead
seen that
People.
movie?
Yes, I have.
Hey!
I have.
All
I've seen that
right.
movie.
Were you scared?
No, I was not scared. I was actually rather indignant at the end of the movie because this is one of the few movies that got me.
Oh, you didn't see?
I did not see that coming. I didn't, and when I got it good.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
It was a good twist.
I mean, they got me good.
Me too.
And I don't even like to admit that because I can usually sense
Figure it
that
out.
something's going on, and so I'll watch the movie and then I'll like. Have you ever seen Usual Suspects?
Yeah.
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 That one I figured out.
Yeah.
It took me a while. It took me the whole movie to figure it out, but I finally figured it out. And when he finally turned that corner and walked away, I was like, yes, I somehow knew that. But Sixth Sense.
Gotcha. Wow, man.
It was
That's
just
a good movie.
Oh,
So-
yeah, I thought it was brilliant.
By the way, that word depraved, it's arakimos,
Yes.
and it means unapproved, worthless, literally or morally, castaway, rejected, reprobate.
Yeah. Dead.
Yep.
Well, I did want to. I had to pull up my message
Yeah.
translation.
Do it.
Okay.
Do it.
Of Romans 1, though, when we did that one earlier,
Yeah.
because I was like, I wonder what he says for all of these different things.
Oh man.
And it's kind of comical in a few spots here. Since they didn't bother to acknowledge God quit bothering them and let them run loose. Then all hell broke loose.
There you go. There you go.
Rampant evil, grabbing and grasping, vicious backstabbing. They made life hell on earth with their envy, wanton killing, bickering, and cheating. Look at them, mean-spirited, venomous, fork-tongued God bashers,
Whoa.
bullies, swaggerers, insufferable windbags. They keep inventing. I feel like Clark Griswold is like the one saying this. Like I can hear him. Insufferable windbags. Like
When he's having the breakdown of Christmas vacation.
Yes.
That's it.
they keep inventing new ways of wrecking lives. They ditch their parents when they get in the way.
Love it.
Stupid, slimy, cruel, cold-blooded, and it's not as if they don't know better. They know perfectly well they're spitting in God's face, and they don't care. Worse, they hand out prizes to those who do the worst things best.
So let's play stupid games, get stupid prizes, right?
Wow.
That is
Wow, I
legit.
love
Like
it.
Clark Griswold, I think, is the writer.
Man.
in this
Hallelujah.
transit. Yeah.
Where's the Tylenol?
Yes.
Yeah. So what do? We just break their arms off.
But right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That is awesome.
Yeah, the windbags part got me pretty good.
Insufferable windbags.
I want you to slip. You've been slipping some no cap and stuff. I want you to figure out a way to slip some insufferable windbag in there. There's my challenge for
I
you.
think I might be able to do that this week.
All right.
I'm going to try. I'll see. Because for those of you who have not been tracking with our sermon series, we're going through the book of Esther. And I'm telling you, I want to tell you just right now, we're talking about zombies. The book of Esther has made me into a zombie because I thought it was just a cute little story. It is not a cute little story.
Yeah,
there
it
is
is.
so much packed into the first 3-4 chapters of Esther. It's absolutely blown my mind.
We're only through the first two.
I know. And get this, I said, I know we're on a sidetrack here. Bear with me. this relates. Remember I talked about Mordecai, right? Well, you don't know this yet because you didn't see it yet.
I listened to it. I watched it.
Oh, did you? Okay. So Mordecai, we find out, is a son of Kish, a Benjamite, right? So that means he's descendant of King Saul.
Gotcha.
All right. You remember the story in about King Saul when the Holy Spirit departed from him and God said, "You're no longer king." What did he do? He was supposed to destroy a particular people all the way. Who were those people? Guess what? They were Amalekites.
They didn't destroy all of them?
He didn't destroy them.
It's a circle. Comes all the way
Yes,
back
it
around.
is. And he was supposed to wipe them all out and not take anything back with them. This is one of those livestock things, too.
Yeah.
He was supposed to wipe it all out. He brought back with them livestock,
Oh, okay. I remember
some
that.
of the treasure,
Yeah.
and the king. The king's name was Agag. Okay. This is important. Esther chapter 3. We meet the villain in the story, who is Haman. Haman the Agagite.
So he started his own little clan or whatever?
He's a descendant of Agag.
Gotcha.
He's an Amalekite. So when we see in the chapter that he somehow positions himself to be promoted to second in command to the king.
So we got descendant of Saul who was supposed to destroy him and the descendants. Wow.
I know, it's tripping.
Okay.
Okay, so what happens here is he's promoted to second in command to the king, right? The king's policy is that when the second in command goes out in around the city, everybody's got to bow to him, you know. Mordecai refuses. He is the one person that will not bow to Haman. And this infuriates Haman. And then Haman finds out that he's a Jew. And this sets off this whole big... So we know that Mordecai will not bow to Haman because bowing to Haman would be bowing to an Amalekite.
Right.
And as a descendant of Saul, he's got that whole backstory.
Yeah.
And Haman, being an Agagite, despises all Jews.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's one of those, kind of like we're experiencing today. I mean, life's mission is to exterminate all the Jews. And now he sees an opportunity.
Yeah.
And so he goes to the king and he says, hey, there's a people. He doesn't go to the king and say, hey, there's this guy that won't bow to me. Will you make him bow to me? He says, there's this people. They're a strange people. They have strange customs. They have strange religion. They don't follow the customs and they don't listen to the king. We need to wipe them all out. All of them. And that's where it all starts.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just a nice little beauty pageant story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Windbag.
Crazy.
Yeah, those insufferable windbags.
So I might be able to use that.
And I'm just going to warn you now, too. I am 0 for 3 on the Peter challenge. Like, every time I'm like, you can't slip this in there. Peter's got me wrong. I'm 0 for 3 on those.
Well, I have been telling him I want to hear Nothing Else Matters by Metallica for like 2 years.
I know you have, and I have not figured out a way to do that yet. I'm working on it, though.
We got to have a key of E.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to do that in the early service, you know?
That's the one. None of them would have a clue. Yeah.
You know, I don't know how I'm going to do that yet, but I'm going to try. Okay, so here's what I want to know about zombies. Where in the world did we get this idea of a zombie apocalypse? Because
I feel like some people pulled it from that.
Same principle. If a zombie bites you, it spreads.
okay, but where
And then we have an abundance of dead.
well, for sure. But why are they all going to gather at one time at the end of the world or whatever? Where did that come from?
I'm betting scripture.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm mystified by that because I keep hearing about when the zombie apocalypse comes. Like everybody's assuming it's going to happen. Why is it zombies?
I don't know. Well, I mean, I know what we saw recently when the COVID thing busted out.
Yeah.
And like when the shots first came out, there was people then that were like,
Oh, I know.
this is
Yeah.
going to be it. This is going to start the brain rot. And I guess whenever I hear like the zombie apocalypse is going to start, what I imagine is something's going to, like in World War Z, I can't remember exactly, but I think it begins in like Africa or something, the origin. And I don't remember how it all begins. I don't know if they were infected with something, if it was like a chemical weapon that kind of went haywire. that's how Resident Evil, it was like a chemical weapon that went a little south, and then it got loose, and it's just the way it's so super contagious that it just becomes like a zombie outbreak / apocalypse because it just spreads like wildfire.
Okay.
So like that's always been kind of how I've understood it. It's just the contagion factor is what's going to be the driving force.
So there's not like 2.5 million zombies waiting now.
No, I've never took it as that.
Okay.
And see, I feel like they could have taken it from this one, 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 8, and it says, "Then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will slay with the breath of his mouth and bring to an end the appearance of his coming. That is the one whose coming is in accord with the activity of Satan, with all power and signs and false wonders, and with all deception of wickedness for those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth so as to be saved."
Okay.
So I feel like that could be that. For this reason, God will send upon them a deluding influence so that they will believe what is false.
Well, there you go.
So
Yeah.
I like it.
so I feel like that could be
That's
there.
the depraved mind route.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of, is that what they're alluding to some people when they talk about in Revelation, what we were talking about, the off-air, the person, they're talking about the Antichrist that has the mortal or fatal wound that is healed, and some say that he leads them.
When you wrap your brain around this, all sin begins as a thought. That's what's harsh. Is because then by that standard, it all begins in your mind.
Yeah.
And we can plainly see that Scripture warns us time and time again that they will be given over to deluding influences. And we know what those deluding influences are. We've talked about this for several weeks, the Elohim, the influences in the world, right?
Yeah.
And we start believing these things and we start acting on it. What'd you say? It said it gains your affection, gets your attention, and gains your allegiance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that the right order?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. What gets your attention gains your affection, and then you
your allegiance.
get your allegiance. That's right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we see.
Well, and when we talked about in the spiritual warfare series, when we talked about the influencers, the impulses, the fleshly impulses are already there inside of us, and so when we have a thought, then the influencer amplifies the thought,
right.
and then that triggers the impulse, which then results in action.
Yeah.
And I mean, gosh, James talks about this. I don't know if I can find it right off the bat, but he talks about how, the lust becomes birthed as sin, and then when sin is fully grown, what is that
I
passage?
think
say?
that's James 3.
Sounds right. And
Tongue is a fire.
yeah, sure is. I think did we already study that on Thursday?
We did.
Yeah. So anyway, the zombie apocalypse is a zombie factor that infects somebody and then it spreads like wildfire. Is that the way you're?
If I'm thinking about it from a physical standpoint, yes.
Okay.
The depraved mind, I could see where the depraved mind zombie, I feel like it'd be where you'd have somebody like the Antichrist that would come up. People would all of a sudden, be infatuated with them and love the ideas and love. I mean, we see this. We see this happen today. And, obviously it'll be, I feel like in that case, then it's kind of I feel like it's a global phenomenon where it really would really spread in that instance.
Now, are these the fast moving zombies or are they the slow ones?
In the physical infection, I don't know. I feel like if your brain is jacked up, I just don't feel like your body is going to be functioning enough to like make you run because they're really fast in World War Z. Like they're like sprinters in World War Z.
Whoever wrote that script can just do another one.
Yeah.
So how do you kill a zombie?
Shoot them in the head.
Yep.
Really?
Aim for the head.
Because in some of my reading, the older understanding of like in the culture of Haiti zombies, you had to kill them with salt. and you had to put salt in their mouth and then, like somehow fasten their lips together.
How long did they have to sit there?
I don't know. I don't know how long it took to work. Maybe it was like when you put salt on a slug. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
It's a minute, but it works.
It does melt them down.
It does.
Yeah, stupid slugs.
I know.
I'm thinking now. So we need shotgun shells full of salt.
Oh,
that's a great idea.
Brilliant.
That is.
That's like Beverly Hillbillies.
Yep. But
rock
it's just
salt.
We're ready to go. Yeah,
but
man.
Also, I just thought of a giant plot hole in Zombies.
What is that?
Is their brain shuts down and it's just their the base of their spine, the base of their skull that's still operating. You shoot them in the head, it's already dead.
Yeah. Well, and now we think I'm like, couldn't you, if you had a secure location, you could go there, I feel like, for a year.
Yeah, wait them out.
And wait a year and like be like, all right, everybody go to these safe locations, just quit getting bit.
COVID lockdown all over again.
Yeah, they'll wither away and die.
So, is this where we put on the helmet of salvation? So we protect our brains?
Yes. There you go.
All right.
There was a question I was going to ask you. Now, you mentioned voodoo is how this all started.
Yeah.
Are y'all familiar with the Voodoo Village?
No.
Voodoo Village,
It's in I think it's technically in Mississippi. It's like right outside of Memphis, I think. I've never been. We were going to go when I was in high school again because I want to see every supernatural scary thing there is apparently. But a group of us were going to go, and then some people did end up going, and I didn't get to go. But it's an actual this weird little stretch of town or road, and they got a bunch of voodoo stuff up around there. And I've heard of people going through there and being chased out by people and. It's like this weird. You can Google Voodoo Village.
Voodoo woman named Phyllis.
Yeah, man, pretty much.
Scary.
I think somebody threw a brick through some guy's window in his car one time. So I was like, I'm not driving through there, but they did nab some pictures. Like they took some pictures of and it was all this voodoo stuff hanging up in all the houses, like the trees, and it's just a creepy place. I didn't know if y'all are familiar with it.
So voodoo always has the voodoo dolls, right?
Yeah,
and they can control people with that. Is that a form of zombieism?
I think it's all related because that's how the zombies got there in the first place, right?
So if they did that, were they possessing them with a demon?
I think so. Yeah.
So could a certain person control a demon? Or are we getting into what we're going to talk about next week?
No, witches are the last week.
No. Oh yeah, we got another week.
Yeah, we got one more week in between.
That's right.
I think that honestly, okay, so if you're like a witch doctor voodoo person, right? You're already in league with the devil.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you're neck deep in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so if the devil is working through you and prompting you to put a spell on or do a voodoo doll on or anything else like that, then you're
pretty much sending the spirit out.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And doing the bidding of whoever is lorded over you.
So if the person that they try to place the hex on is a Christian,
well, then it won't work.
I was going to say, are they?
No, it can't.
Yeah.
Because, you already got a spirit inside of you.
Yeah.
That's
so
the Holy
you could
Spirit.
just be like,
yeah.
So do you think there are different...
As you're running.
Yeah.
Do you think there are different levels of powers given to humans by evil entities?
I think it's I think it's to what level you surrender yourself.
That's what I'm thinking. Like if you're just kind of dabbling in it versus being full of, because there are people out there that are straight up tell you they were ex-Satanist witchcraft people, that's
for sure.
We could legit do stuff. So I'm wondering if it's what are they, the Freemasons, 10th level, 30th level, whatever.
But it won't last forever because the demon will destroy you.
Right.
I mean, it will literally, you'll either destroy yourself at the bidding of the, it can't last forever.
yeah.
That's so crazy that people would be involved in that.
It is.
But because they're the ones that they perceive themselves to have the power. It's just like it's the Tower of Babel all over again.
Yeah.
We're going to summon a power that's greater than me to make me feel like I have power, but I don't really have power. The only way to truly have power is to give up your power and let God have power, but that doesn't feel like me.
Yeah.
And they want it to be about them.
Wow.
Well, what really that I think about with that then is the danger that some of these people are putting themselves in. Like, well, all of them obviously to do
completely.
this, but you see these people, they got the Church of Satan now.
I know.
And there's some weirdos that are probably in there that really want to worship Satan. And then you also got some that are like, they're like, I'm an atheist. I just want to poke at the Christians. But it's like, dude, do you have any idea what kind of fire you're playing with?
That's it.
Yeah.
And the reason that you would worship Satan is because you feel like you're going to have some sort of autonomy and some sort of, power that's greater than a normal human.
Yeah.
Or that you could lord over another human.
And they might have some greater power, but that, like you said, it's going to devour them.
It's exactly. It's going to decay, destroy, demolish.
I feel like now that we're getting into this, I feel like the last week, not only do we need to just cover witches, but we need to cover the occult.
All right, I think
that sounds good.
Well, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, witchcraft is sort of the umbrella that
all
everything
this falls into.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
And we can finish out this way too, because in all of the stuff that I read and all the history and all of the different commentaries that kind of weigh in on this stuff, every one of them will go back to so these creatures may or may not be real as we perceive them.
Right.
The concept of them is very real because the concept of them has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
We talked about ghosts, the disembodied spirit of the dead, that's been around since the dawn of time.
Right.
But so like werewolves, they're the people that kind of are into this sort of thing from a Christian perspective. I mean, they just straight up say it's demons. It's whatever kind of demon you want to call it. It could be, the Nephilim. It could be, but it's an evil spirit. And same with vampires, and same with, the ghost thing, and now we get to zombies, and they'll say, a soulless person wandering around with a depraved mind, it's an evil spirit.
Yeah.
And so that means that we should, once again, we come right back to where we kind of end up at every episode. We shouldn't live in fear.
Yeah.
Right.
But we should understand that while the Hollywood version of a zombie may not be real, the idea behind it and the spirit behind it is very real.
Yeah.
And you were dead in your trespasses and
That's
sins.
right.
You're wandering around, oblivious, basically.
And Scripture even says you don't know that you were walking around like that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
You have no idea. And then we talk about this zombie apocalypse. I mean, what about the nations gathering together against the people of God? Mm-hmm. I mean, what is that? It's kind of a zombie apocalypse, if you want. And what's happening now in all these, in Israel and Russia and Ukraine, all this stuff. I mean, these are people that are dead spiritually, and they can only see one thing, and that's to devour something.
Yep.
And that's really the spirit behind a lot of this stuff.
It is. Well, that's what a lot of this has shown me, like how the amount of demonic influence that's going on in the world is like, it's crazy how much influence. And I would say quite a bit of possession that's, again, not like they're not levitating and like, spinning their head around or crab walking down the stairs.
Yeah.
But they are literally brainwashing an entire group of people to make them go and, like we've talked about Hitler before. I would say Hitler, if he obviously was demonically influenced, he may have full blown been possessed, like the stuff he was doing. Well, and he would have that spirit, like we were talking about. He would have had the spirit to influence all of these people coming from that as well.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, there's one commentary that I read about Haman that paralleled Haman to Hitler.
Nice.
And did it from kind of that perspective.
Yeah.
That same spirit, that same,
And that makes sense.
It really does. And when you consider that the Amalekites were considered to be the embodiment of Satan. Mm-hmm. And so there's that evil spirit right there,
And when I think we as believers too, we think the things of God when evil comes against the things of God, right? We're looking for people burning down churches and things like that. All things good on the world are of God.
Yeah.
Right. And by the way, too, I've often heard people say, you know, one of the reasons they can't believe in God is because evil exists.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Without God, there's no such thing as evil.
Right.
If God doesn't exist, there would be no such thing as evil.
Well,
because there has to be a counter.
I posted a little, or I reposted a little video clip, and it was one of my other guys, Erwin McManus, and he said he was talking to someone who was really struggling to believe in God, and they said, well, if there is a God, why is there so much evil in the world? And so he said, well, if God does not exist, would there still be evil in the world?
That's right.
Yeah, there would be. Then what's the difference? Right. I mean, so how do you assign that to God then?
Yeah.
You know, why is God involved with it?
Yeah. Why is he the author of evil?
And I'm reminded too, I was reminded again today of, remember when George Burns played God in the movie?
Which movie?
Wasn't it just called God, or no, it was God. God, I can't remember. It was very famous in the 80s. Anyway, George Burns played the character of God.
Yeah.
And so somebody in the movie says, well, why do you allow evil? And God says, why do you allow evil?
Yeah.
And they said, well, why do you allow war? Why do you allow war? Why do you allow greed? And why do you participate in greed?
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, that to me, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Because
it is.
You know, it's like, why are we putting God behind all this stuff?
Yeah. It's because it's no ownership.
Well, here comes the thing about free will again, too, is God loves you so much that he lets you choose.
Yeah.
It has to be that way.
It has
or
to
it's
be.
not, or it's not real, genuine love.
Yeah.
That's right. And so when people give themselves over to depraved minds, this is the result of it.
Yep.
I mean, this is the result of our world. Yeah. So that's going to be my new thing now. Thanks. We're living in a zombie apocalypse right now.
Yeah.
We are.
That's it. And honestly, you know, when Paul talks about this in Ephesians 2, you know, he says, according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, of the spirit that is now working in the sons of disobedience. That's just like an encapsulation of what we're talking about.
The sons of disobedience are the zombies.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool, though, if Haman, in the middle of his sort of, you know, activity, shapeshifted into a werewolf?
It would be.
Like the Amalekites were.
I mean, I feel like a guy with the Amalekites, he ought to do something like that. I mean, they were like the evil freaks.
Yeah.
Maybe he was the low level.
Maybe.
Yeah, he'd have been
He could just turn into like a cat.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, maybe that was it. Anyway, this turned into a really fascinating discussion.
It did.
Yeah.
Werewolves and zombies. Who knew? You know? And it just goes to show you that there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
That this stuff has been around for a long time, and it's around today, and it's around in all of its different forms.
Yep.
And so, you know, we don't have to live in fear. It says, resist the devil, resist the werewolf with your fork.
A mountain of fiction with a grain of history.
That's exactly right. And then, you know, just put on the full armor of God, put on the breastplate of righteousness with your fork and your silver bullet and your salt.
Shotgun slugs full of, or shells full of salt.
That's it.
And make sure you got the belt on. Hold it all together.
That's exactly right. And everybody's going to be okay. But anyway, this has been a lot of fun. You guys been, this has been a lot of fun.
This was, guys, y'all know what to do. Leave us a comment below. Hey, we got like 2 more weeks until Halloween. Hit thumbs up, subscribe, but comment below if you have something you want us to discuss on this. And like I said, it's too, if there's a movie or something that y'all are like, I wonder about this,
or a biblical problem.
Yeah,
you know,
something
that's confusing, or something you know. Some of you, I know you watch those internet theologians a little too much.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. We'll help set you straight. We'll do our very best. But also, coming up after Halloween, we're gonna bust some more myths. We're gonna do a few biblical problems, I think, in November. But then what I want to do in December is talk about Christmas.
Okay.
Yep.
is Christmas really a pagan holiday? Did we co-opt it from the pagans? What's the deal about Santa Claus?
Saint Nicholas.
Yeah,
this ought to get your appetite going. I've listened to a guy who claims to know the exact day of Jesus' birth.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
He's done astronomy and math and calendar work and everything. I mean, this is not a goofball. I mean, he's like serious scholar.
Back to
I
when.
will be interested to hear that.
Yeah, because there was a lot of astrology when Jesus was born.
And the Magi and the Star of Bethlehem. We're going to go into that too.
And King Herod too.
Uh-huh.
You can date it. Yeah.
Okay. You know why the three wise men had on fireman hats when they showed up?
I have no idea.
Because they came from afar.
Dad joke. All right.
Good job.
I'll tell you one I want to talk about.
All right.
I want to talk about alcohol.
Okay.
Because I've had a guy, I have been
Boozing.
asked twice in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Thoughts about that. And I was like, man, that's probably like, we could probably have a pretty good episode on, I don't know what probably not an entire episode on alcohol.
We should do one on taboos.
Yeah.
Taboo.
Christian taboos.
Yep.
Because, we all kind of, have experience with, legalistic kinds of mindsets. And, it's like, which ones are in good faith and which ones are just kind of misguided.
Right. Yeah.
And we're going to scripture and we'll do the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it'd be a good one.
That would be fantastic.
Because we can do tattoos.
I mean, we
and
know
can
tattoos
do,
are wrong.
I know.
Everybody knows that,
Them
right?
tattoo people need to just calm down.
Exactly right.
All right, guys. Hey, like I said, do all the things. Leave us a rating and review.
Give us a thumbs up.
And comment below.
Yeah.
And
do it all.
We'll catch you next week.
All right.